This is Mac OS Ken.
Target's drop on Apple shares. Wheels are in motion for Apple manufacturing in India. And lots of new shows headed to Apple TV+. It is Friday, the 20th of January, 2023. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. Both J.P. Morgan analyst Samik Chatterjee and Canaccord Genuity analyst T. Michael Walkley cut their 12-month price targets on Apple this week. And frankly, why wouldn't they? The former had a price target of $190 on the share. The latter had a price target of $200. Apple spent the week trading in the mid-130s, and there is no solid reason to see $200 on the relatively near horizon. Their notes on the cuts were decidedly similar. Running part of his note, Apple 3.0 had J.P. Morgan's Chatterjee saying that earnings for last quarter will disappoint thanks to the supply constraints on the iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro Max. Then there's concern that demand for Apple gear will be low this quarter, given the troubled economy. Oh, that doesn't usually hit Apple that hard, but, worry, uncertainty, concern. Quoting Chatterjee's note, while high-end smartphones as well as other hardware products, for example the Mac and iPads, have been more resilient in the recent past amid the deterioration of fundamentals for the mid to low end of the hardware market, we expect to see moderating momentum in the demand drivers for Apple's hardware portfolio as we start to see signs of the product cycle tailwinds beginning to fade, iPhone and Apple Watch in particular. It would be cool to know which signs, but that's apparently not for us mere mortals. Chatterjee does maintain an overweight rating on Apple shares. He dropped his price target on the shares, though, moving it from $190 to $180. As for Canaccord's Team Money, Apple 3.0 had his note saying, while we believe demand is solid and some of the lost December quarter sales will help March results, we anticipate an overall sluggish start to fiscal year 2023. With the overall concerning macro backdrop for consumer spending on higher price devices, we have reduced our overall hardware estimates for fiscal 23 and fiscal 24, with most of the reduction stemming from our lowered iPad and Mac estimates. At the same time, Walkley lists a number of factors working in Apple's favor. They include an overall installed base of over 1.8 billion devices, an installed base of over 1 billion iPhones, a 5G upgrade cycle that's still underway, continued anticipated growth for Apple's services segment, a pile of cash that is $49 billion high, and continued repurchase of Apple's own shares. But the times are what they are. Walkley keeps a buy rating on Apple shares. He has cut Canaccord's price target on the shares from $200 to $170. Plans to grow Apple manufacturing in India seem to be going well. For now, anyway. Bloomberg and the South China Morning Post say several Chinese suppliers have been given the go-ahead to expand onto the subcontinent. According to the report, more than a dozen of Apple's Chinese suppliers are receiving initial clearance by India to expand in the country, helping the tech giant's efforts to diversify its assembly network beyond China. The piece says about 14 of the 17 suppliers Apple listed as key to iPhone production have received approval. At least that's the rumor. Apple, India's technology ministry, and suppliers mentioned in the report did not respond to requests for comment. Now, there is a sentence in the piece that I personally find unsettling. According to Bloomberg, India largely cut off Chinese companies from its tech economy after the country's troops clashed violently on their long-disputed border in 2020. Does Apple's manufacturing in India hinge on still getting parts from Chinese companies and peace between China and India? According to Bloomberg, Apple and other U.S. electronics brands are seeking to reduce their reliance on China after trade restrictions and COVID-related production disruptions laid bare the risks of too much concentration in one country. The clearances signal that India is allowing more Chinese companies in to build out its tech manufacturing sector, even as political tensions between the Asian neighbors have intensified. Okay. From whatever's going on there to what the heck is going on here? Engadget ran a piece earlier this week that said Apple will let a third-party firm audit its labor practices. This after the Cupertino company was accused by employees and regulators of using union-busting tactics to stop worker organization. In a filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission ahead of its annual shareholders meeting, Engadget says Apple said it would carry out an assessment of its efforts to comply with its human rights policy as it relates to workers' freedom of association and collective bargaining rights in the U.S. by the end of calendar year 2023. While bad press may have played a part, money seems to have done a bit of talking here too. According to the report, Apple's cooperation came in the wake of a call for assessment by a group of investors. The group, which controls about $7 billion worth of Apple shares, put forth a shareholder proposal on the matter. An official with the city of New York involved with the call for assessment says Apple agreed to the audit as long as the investors agreed to pull the proposal. Obscured by Wednesday's HomePod news, increases in some areas on the price of HomePod Mini. Apple wowed the audiophonic world on Wednesday by returning the larger and in-charger smart speaker to market. Up for order now, the new unit will go for $299 in the US and £299 in the UK. I bring up the UK price because that is one of the places the price for HomePod Mini quietly edged up. 9to5 Mac says the cost of the diminutive speaker has moved from £89 to £99. Other price increases have also been spotted. Tweets from Italy and France show the HomePod Mini's price rising from €99 to $109. Just a sound decision on Apple's part? No. 9to5 Mac says prices for other hardware have also increased. The 9to5ers have the site The Apple Post pointing to increases for the iMac as well. In the UK, prices for those went up midweek by £150. 9to5 Mac sees nothing odd about the decision. In fact, it almost doesn't sound like a decision. More like math. The piece points out that UK and EU prices include sales tax, where US prices do not. The way 9to5 Mac sees it, the direct pre-tax comparison on the HomePod Mini would be £82.50 or $101.85 in the UK, against an almost identical $99 in the US. The price increase then just brings the UK back in line with US pricing after currency movements. Still costs £10 more than it did Tuesday, though. Sort of stinks for His Majesty's subjects and people in Europe looking to buy today. Though they missed 2022, Apple still seems to be working on whatever it's turning Primephonic into. We talked about this one in mid-December. As a reminder, Apple bought the classical music service Primephonic in August of 2021. Shut the service down a couple of weeks later, though it said it would launch a dedicated classical music app sometime the following year. Then we said Happy New Year, and then we said it again, that second time without a Primephonic replacement. Now a piece from Apple Insider says work still looks to be underway. A replacement is not expected with next week's release of iOS 16.3, However, the piece says snippets of code in this week's 16.3 release candidate show references to Apple Music Classical, thought, for some reason, to be Apple's classical music replacement. And finally today, tons of new content coming soon to Apple TV+, assuming it's working again. Lots of sites ran posts Thursday night saying that firing up Apple's streaming video service was a no-go. According to a piece from Cult of Mac, around 5 p.m. Pacific, a message in the Apple TV app read, "Content unavailable. There's a problem loading this content. If this continues, check your internet connection." On Macs, the message appeared in the Watch Now, Apple TV Plus, and Store tabs of Apple's TV app. Strange and relatively short-lived. Apple's system status page says the issue was resolved by 6:45 p.m. Pacific. Sorry about your prime time, people back east. Anyway, tons of new content coming to Apple TV+. The Cupertino streamer issued a press release this week listing off titles and premiere dates, including Truth Be Told, Season 3 hits today, the 20th of January. Shape Island also premieres today. Shrinking premieres a week from today, the 27th of January. Dear Edward starts on Friday, the 3rd of February. Hello Tomorrow hits 2 weeks later on Friday, the 17th. Thriller series Liaison premieres Friday, the 24th of February. Eugene Levy's The Reluctant Traveler lands the same day, February 24th. The climate change anthology Extrapolations premieres Friday, the 17th of March. The music competition My Kinda Country hits on the 24th of March. Season 2 of the musical comedy Schmigadoon starts on the 7th of April. Mystery series The Last Thing He Told Me begins the 14th of April. Environmental kids series Jane hits the same day, April 14th. Season 2 of The After Party starts on the 28th of April. The New York City drama City on Fire begins on the 12th of May. The Big Door Prize gets a vague Spring 23 time frame. Season 2 of Swagger begins sometime in June. And finally, a series that I am both looking forward to and dreading. The third and likely final season of Ted Lasso is set for sometime this spring. The picture for that one looks dramatic and sad. Part of me can't wait, and part of me never wants to see it. I'll be fine. There are pictures, descriptions, cast members, and more for all of the series in Apple's press release. Though if you want to see the shows in action, you'll need to get to YouTube. Apple Insider ran a piece this week highlighting 5 trailers from Apple TV+. Getting the sound plus vision vibe were Shrinking, Dear Edward, The Reluctant Traveler, The Big Door Prize, and Hello Tomorrow. That last one could give Schmigadoon a run for the title of Most Stylized. CNET describes the trailer for Hello Tomorrow as Mad Men with jetpacks. View the trailers at your leisure. Each lives now on YouTube. Today on the Mac Observer's Daily Observations podcast, India has given Chinese companies a green light that should help Apple grow manufacturing in India. But if it requires Chinese companies, is diversification into India really diversification? TMO managing editor Jeff Butts and I puzzle over that, plus a how-to on making use of HomePod's temperature and humidity sensors. That is all today on the Daily Observations podcast from the Mac Observer, online at macobserver.com or wherever you get podcasts. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macoscan.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.